This week we'll bring you another installment from this season's ultimate riding tour of the Catskill Mountains as we ride south out of Oneonta, New York and discover Trout Town, USA. Speaking of ultimate rides, later on in the show we'll step into the time capsule as we visit the Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum in Alabama to take a look at an early 1960s motorcycle subculture known over in England as the Cafe Racer. Then we'll head out west to Duncan, BC to catch up with young Matt Fletcher as he learns what can happen when you walk away from your motorcycle, parked with its transmission in neutral, on soft grass. Plus, over in our contest corner, Kylie will give us another valuable clue in our Keys to Kylie's Scooter contest. All this and much more as TSN presents Motorcycle Experience. Hello and welcome to Motorcycle Experience, the voice of motorcyclists everywhere. I'm Dave Hatch, and today we kick off our show with our Ride of the Week. Introducing Triumph Motorcycles Bonneville T100. If you were with us last week, then you know that during our time capsule, we took a closer look at what turned out to be a real game changer for the Triumph Company back in 1959, when the Bonneville T120 was created by famed designer Edward Turner for the American market. The 650cc air-cooled parallel twin paid tribute to a Texas racer known as Johnny Allen, who had broken several land speed records using Triumph-powered motorcycles on the Bonneville Salt Flats back in the mid-50s. It was an instant hit. Fast forward now some 5 decades, and the new Bonnie has grown both in displacement and modcoms. Displacing now some 865 cc's, the T100 also sports fuel injection and disc brakes, while still retaining the original spoked wheels and pea-shooter pipes. This new machine certainly looks like a Bonneville of yesteryear. But how does it ride and perform? Well, here's what one of our super fans had to say after a day in the saddle. So Daryl, what was your first impression when you walked up to the motorcycle this morning?
Well, first impression, I kind of thought I was back in the 60s, looking at this steel idling piece of metal first thing in the morning with the choke on. It's got a choke. I was quite impressed, and I'm not used to anything along this line. So I must say I really liked the sound of it. It was a really kind of a deep throaty sound and nothing like I've ever heard before.
Yeah, I would agree. When we first fired it up, it was like, wow, that's an unusual but cool sound.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that motor. We were shooting you riding along this morning and I thought, it looks like it could be from the 60s. It's very pretty. What was it like to ride?
Well, when you read about it, it sounds old and kind of old school, and you would kind of think it's maybe a little bit, lacking on the power side. But when you hop on this motorcycle, it feels like it's got engineered new technology, and that's exactly what it has. It's fuel injected, and this motorcycle catches you off guard with the amount of torque and power that it has.
Right.
I noticed there was a very tall first gear, which I was quite impressed. You kind of almost thought I was started out in second gear, but it's actually first.
Suspension, we were on some pretty choppy roads today, lots of potholes. How did you find just the ride of the bike? I noticed the saddle didn't look too cushy. It was wide, but not too cushy, but put it together with the suspension, how was the ride?
The ride is actually a lot better than what it looks. It absorbs impact or road bumps very well. You'd think, just look at the flat seat like you said, but these shocks along the sides here, the Cuba shock system works very good. Very good for absorbing all the bumps I went over today and encountered. So,
noticed you were doing a lot of roll-ons, a lot of snapping away from our cameras. You were leaning it over in the corners. You were slaloming a little bit. Like, how did it just feel to ride? It looked to me like you were sort of having fun. It looked almost like it was lighter than you expected it to be.
Absolutely. The given weight it's over 500 pounds, but it does not feel like that when you're riding it. Once you're up to speed, it doesn't feel heavy at all. It just feels kind of light, and it feels like it's a light, sporty 750 motorcycle. I could ride it all weekend.
So how did you find the actual riding position itself? It's pretty sort of sit up for me. What about for yourself?
Yeah, I found for myself, with myself just being under 6 feet tall, I found the riding position perfect. The seat height on this is 30.5 inches high, so it works good for a lot of perhaps shorter riders, but I know it will work with taller riders too, just because the way the front handlebars are angled. So it kind of covers all rider heights. You can choose to be sporty if you want, or you can just cruise at that ergonomic stance in the cockpit there. It works really well.
How did you find the instrument layout? I think it's about as basic and retro as you can get. You've got a speedo, an attack, and a few switches. How did you find all that?
I find it easy to use, clear and quick to read when you want to read it. It's all you need for going out for a weekend cruise.
What did you think of the product itself? Did it surprise you?
It did, actually. For some reason, when I look at this motorcycle, I ride it, I hop off and look at it, and I think this motorcycle is kind of like when you go to the store and you want to buy a watch. This is like one of the higher end watches for sale. It's steel, it's classy, it's just genuine. I don't know, something about it. It's just got this nostalgia about it.
Yeah.
Kind of gets you into it.
What did you really like about the bike? What was sort of the big number one surprise?
Number one surprise for me was the first gear, how tall it was. It was just, you just engage the clutch and off you go, and it went a long ways. And it reminded me that this just isn't a small CC motorcycle. It's 865 cc's, so you got some power underneath you. So
right.
Quite impressed with that.
So who do you think would enjoy a motorcycle like this? And what would they do with it?
Well, this motorcycle will definitely cater to men and women of all ages. I wouldn't say it's a bike to start out on, because it does have a lot of torque, there's a lot of power there, even though it doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
But definitely history nuts. Men and women that are interested in the heritage of a company, such as Triumph, they have a history. It's definitely buying a brand new product, engineered for today, brought back from time. That's all I can really say. You just got to go to the store and check it out. It's beautiful.
It reminded me a lot, and I know you're a Harley fan, it reminded me a lot of the Sportster. You know, that sort of elemental, retro, not a lot of bells and whistles. Would you say that's about as close as it comes to that analogy?
Yeah, it actually reminded me of that as well, Dave. I noticed when I was on the throttle earlier today too, when you get on the throttle in the high revs, it felt like a Sportster. It felt similar to that. Lots of pull, and it kind of peters out near the higher end of the rev range.
So what will you tell your friends when you go back home about this bike? What's going to be the lasting impression?
I just drove a piece of time, a beautiful piece of steel that's very classy, engineered to today's standards, and I'm very lucky to be able to try it out today.
Well, you did a great job for us, and it looked like you had a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Daryl.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming down.
Still ahead, we grab some last-minute safety tips as Matt and Don get set for adventure out on Vancouver Island. We'll also step back into time to examine a legendary set of wheels from the golden era of riding. And we'll reveal another key feature in our Keys to Kylie's scooter contest giveaway. Stay with us. Motorcycle Experience is brought to you in part by Honda Motorcycles, BMW Motorrad, and Triumph Motorcycles. Closed captioning of Motorcycle Experience is brought to you in part by Motovan. Welcome back as TSN presents Motorcycle Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and it's time now to head back to Duncan, BC, where young Matt Fletcher learns that sometimes a motorcycle tips over, and what goes down must come up. So this week, before hitting the trail, Don wants to make sure Matt knows how to pick up his motorcycle without breaking his back.
Whoa, Don, what'd you do to my bike?
Well, Matt, I think you've just learned one of the big lessons of adventure riding. You left your bike in neutral, and you put it on soft ground. So the bike is rolled and folded up your side stand. So
all right,
pick that thing up.
Come on.
Whoa, Matt, whoa.
What?
You're gonna hurt your back doing it like that. So what you want to do when you got your bike down like this, and this is actually this is good this happened to you. I'm really glad this happened to you.
Yeah, well,
this is a common thing in the trail. You stop, you go to take a leak in the woods, and you come back and here's your bike lying here just like this, and you're all by yourself. How are you going to get this up? This is a huge bike. So the trick is, put the bike, make sure the bike's in gear. So put the bike in gear. You're going to have to reach under there and put it into gear.
All right.
You want to make sure the bike's in gear.
Okay, there we go.
And then I want you to take the bars and I want you to bring them full lock this way.
Just like that?
So the front wheel's pointing to the sky. No, not like that. Just bring them over like this, Matt. So bring it over here like that. So it's up like that. And then I want you to get it between your legs. I want you to lift it with your legs up. And as you bring it up, you can rest it on your knee if it's too heavy.
Okay.
And if you get to the point, you can rest it there and make an adjustment and lift it. So you want to do this. Grab it from the end of the bar.
Yep.
Bring it up like that.
Yep.
Then you want to lift straight up.
Oh, wow.
And that's how you'll lift your bike if it drops. So let's let you try this, Matt.
Oh, okay. Nice. You get it up and I'm going to have to do it again.
You want to give me a hand and put it back down so we don't break it?
All right.
Luckily, we didn't do any damage. You didn't do any damage last time. Okay, so before you do this, what are the steps?
You want me to grab underneath the handlebar?
Put it in gear.
Yeah, which it is.
Bike in gear, so you know that, but you should get in the habit of remembering to check that.
Okay.
Bring the bars full lock.
Bring the bars full lock like this.
That's right, and pull it up. You rest it on your leg. When you get to that point, you can actually rest it on your leg if you need a breather.
Okay.
Well done, you did it.
Well, thanks for the tough lesson there, Don.
Okay, is it in gear right now, Matt?
It is.
And how's the ground underneath it?
It's still soft.
Yes, it is. Let's move it ahead a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, now the ground looks a little bit better here. Let's just test it. That looks better. Now, when you're in the trail and you've got ground that's too soft, there are a few things you can do.
Okay.
You can use a center stand.
Right.
You can try and find a rock that's close by you and slip it under the stand. So there's lots of things you can do. So you got to be a little bit more savvy when you're in the woods. You can't just park it like you would in a parking lot because the ground, Mother Nature doesn't allow that. Mother Nature wants to challenge you. So, well done.
All right. Well, thanks for the tough lesson, Don.
You're welcome.
Now that's some great advice, Don, and I'd like to just point out that you can apply that lifting technique to your street bike too. Don't touch that remote, there's still plenty more experience ahead. Next, we make a twisty discovery where two rivers meet. Welcome back as TSN presents Motorcycle Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and it's time now for this week's installment in our Ultimate Ride. As Norm and I continue our trip down to the Catskills. You know, there's a pile of resorts down there that were very popular back in the 50s. In fact, a lot of stand-up comics like Joan Rivers and Rodney Dangerfield, well, they cut their teeth down there. This season, Norm and I have headed off east out of Toronto to explore the Catskill Mountains located about an hour or so northwest of New York City. The Catskills are part of the Allegheny Plateau, and according to our map, the area contains some more than 30 peaks above 3,500 feet. Translation? Twisty riding. To get there, we left Canada via a tiny border crossing just east of Kingston, Ontario. Then we rode south and east before stopping for the night in Oneonta, New York, located on the northern edge of the Catskills. Today we kick off day 2 of our journey, heading south on Route 206. We set the GPS for Roscoe, New York in the hopes of finding a good cup of coffee. Instead, we discover a town better known by some fly fishermen as Trout Town, USA. Well, Norm, it's day 2 and we're in the town of Roscoe, and I've got to say the first 3-4 hours this morning we've had some great riding.
Oh, it was incredible, you know, leaving Oneonta this morning and taking 28 down to 1 in Andes, and then from there we went down to the 30 along the Pepacton Reservoir, and the riding through there was just fantastic. I mean, just unbelievable motorcycle roads this morning.
Yeah, I have to say, it's been chilly. You know, we've been averaging about 6 degrees all morning, but if you can get yourself down here just south of Delhi,
You mentioned Andes, and there's a road out of Andes South, number 1. I have to say, it's one of the best roads I've ever ridden. It was a pure roller coaster.
Yeah,
it was just great.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And we were saying, we've ridden in so many places, and this is a really well-kept secret, this Catskills region, and it's wonderful motorcycle roads and a great time.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I think we're probably about 5.5 hours south of Montreal, and certainly some of the best roads I've seen. And scenery, man, we came across some scenic lookouts this morning. They were just stunning. By
accident, because remember we were coming down those roads, and we just decided to turn left on this one road, and wasn't part of our morning mapped out, the route that we mapped out this morning, and we just say, let's turn left here and see what's down this road. And just beautiful countryside and lots of surprises. So, you've got your route planned out, but take a left, take a right, and explore a little bit.
Yeah, don't be afraid to get off the beaten path, that's for sure. And the fall really is, I think, the best time to come down here. I mean, for one thing, we've got the leaves and everything, but there's no traffic. The roads we've been on, we've owned the roads all morning.
Absolutely, except this intersection, but other than that.
Well, we're at the 3 corners here, but the fall leaves, a lot of the leaves are off the trees now, and the scenery, I think we're sort of punching through, and we're seeing through to the lakes, we're seeing through to the rivers, and stuff that you wouldn't normally see when there's full foliage. So I think we've really had a great treat this morning.
Absolutely, and now it's time to head a little further south.
Yeah, so from here, I guess we're going to head to, the ultimate destination is the site of Woodstock, but I guess we'll take 17 south, and eventually we'll catch up with 55, and that will take us right into Bethel, the little tiny village of Bethel, and man, we can peace out.
I'm sure you'll be singing the whole way now.
You bet. It's been a great ride this morning, another ultimate ride. Peace.
Next week, we'll be right in the thick of it as we explore the Catskills during autumn's full bloom. In the meantime, we'll continue to stick with our scooter theme as we turn our attention to this season's contest giveaway. How would you like to win the keys to your very own Giorno? Well, here's Kylie to tell you how.
Thanks, Dave. Last year, the show received a lot of emails about scooters. It seems like people are riding them all across Canada. David's given tons of scooter tips and advice on the show over the past couple of years because scooters are super fun, a great way to get into motorcycling, and a great way to get around. Because we've been getting a lot of interest in scooters from viewers all across Canada, we thought we'd hold a contest where you could win my cool new Honda Giorno scooter. Here's how the contest is going to work. Each week, we're going to answer some viewer mail about scooters, and you need to remember the subject. So this week, we have an email from Sandy Noche from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. She wants to know if it's hard to learn how to ride a scooter. Well, first of all, if you can ride a bicycle, you're pretty much there. Scooters are really simple. They're not like motorcycles when it comes to getting underway. No gears to shift, no clutch, just twist and go. Alrighty then, so that's this week's contest key feature. Scooters are easy to learn to ride. Now let's get right down to the nuts and bolts. How to enter the Keys to Kylie's Scooter contest. All you have to do is surf the Motorcycle Experience website and click on the Kylie's Keys link. Provide us with 3 key features or reasons for owning a scooter. Remember, every week I'm going to be giving you a key feature and you only need 3. So send those in and you'll be instantly entered into the draw to win the keys to my scooter, a brand new 2013 Honda Giorno. Awesome. So in a couple of months, we're going to be drawing to see who wins the keys to a brand new scooter on our last episode of the season. So good luck, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Next, we'll head down to the amazing Barber Museum in Alabama to take an up-close and personal look at a classic ton-up boy motorcycle. Motorcycle Experience is brought to you in part by Honda Motorcycles, BMW Motorrad, and Triumph Motorcycles. Welcome back as TSN presents The Experience.
I'm Dave Hatch, and we'll wrap up our show now by taking a closer look at a 1960s British phenomenon, known for promoting the pastime of sipping tea in cafes and topping the time. Behold a 1968 Dresda Triton, a 650cc air-cooled Triumph modified by England's legendary Triumph specialist Dave Deegans to look and behave essentially like a racetrack-ready road racer, only for the street. Long before there were YZs, CBRs, Gixxers, and Ninjas, the Brits figured out the sport bike formula in spades. They called them cafe racers. Enthusiasts who rode hard out into the British countryside cafes, had a quick cuppa, and then rode back home for supper. Barber Museum technical consultant Brian SLARK picks up the story in this week's Triumph Time Capsule.
When you think of the cafe culture, the first thing you think about, the ultimate racer, the cafe racer, is a Triton, which always used a Triumph 650 Bonneville motor. It was the best motor, easy to work on, a lot of speed equipment for it. You can make it go very, very fast, and everybody knew how to make it run fast. So that was definitely the motor to have. Dave Deegans, which was a Triumph dealer in London, started to build the Tritons, and also he won a race in Barcelona, Spain, a 24-hour race, and his bike outlasted every other bike, and he won that race, I think, more than once. So he knew what he was doing, and he built some iconic motorcycles, and he is Mr. Cafe Racer. A cafe racer is a racer with barely legal street equipment, the most minimal you could put on there without getting a ticket. And the guys would ride down to the coffee shop and hang out, and then they would have these races on the highway and see whose was the quickest, who had the most maximum speed. And it evolved into like almost a standard format of a motorcycle with a fairing, a clip-on handlebars, rear set footrest, swept-backed exhaust, and it evolved from there. So virtually what you had a look-alike racer, and the preferred motor was a Bonneville, a 650 Bonneville. You could buy a lot of tuning parts for it, make it go fast, and they would fit it in various frames. A Norton frame was popular, usually a frame that was readily available from, say, a 350 Norton. You pull the motor out and you put the Triumph motor in it, and then you could buy engine plates, you could buy all the goodies to make it look really trick. When you look at the cafe culture, the cafe racer, and you look at the modern sport bikes, all the modern sport bikes, they're cafe racers. They've got fairings, they've got rear set footrests, they've got short handlebars. I mean, they are a factory cafe racer. They're not a big touring bike. It's a racer with lights, exactly the same philosophy. If you look at the cafe culture now, I think the young guys are using Japanese motorcycles, maybe 1970s, 80s, 90s. Very affordable, very available, a lot of parts. So they're doing the same thing that the young guys were doing in the 1960s. They want to look fast, and they want to look like a racer.
Well, at least the fork pressure's still good. Anyway, that's it for this week's program. We're all out of time, so till next week, keep your feet on the pegs and your right hand crank. Bye for now.